Can you please indicate to me, or Gilbert, please, that you're wanting something? You're pretty small over there.
No worries.
Thank you. All right, thank you, everybody. The appointed time has come. We'll start the meeting. On behalf of the Glenelg Shire, I respectfully acknowledge the traditional lands and waters of the Gunditjmara people and their respective cultural heritages. I acknowledge the elders past and present here at today's gathering, and through them to all Aboriginal people. The Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people provide an important contribution to Australia's cultural heritage and identity. We respectfully acknowledge the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander community living throughout the Glenelg Shire and the contribution that they make to the Glenelg Shire's prosperity and well-being. Tonight's meeting will be recorded. To those present in the gallery today, by attending the public meeting of the Council, you are consenting to your image, voice and comments being recorded and published. Council meetings may be live streamed, and the Chief Executive Officer will enable a copy of the recording to the public. This evening we have an apology from Councillor Alistair McDonald. Mr CEO, no further...
We should note that Councillor Michael Carr is online.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr CEO. That will be noted. Item 5, councillors, the confirmation of the minutes. There's a recommendation there on page 3. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on Tuesday the 23rd of January 24 as circulated be confirmed.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Do we have a seconder? Councillor Robert McDonald. It's been moved by Councillor Martin. Oh, any questions or queries on that? It's quite straightforward. That's right. Moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Robin McDonald. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Item 5.2, record of councillor briefings. There's a recommendation on page 4, councillors. Councillor Northcote.
I'd move that the council receives the record of councillor briefings held on 23rd of January 2024 and the 13th of February 2024. Thanks.
Thank you,
I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. It's been moved by Councillor Northcote and second by Councillor Wilson. Those in favour? Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Councillor Wilson, did you want... sorry.
It is a new item that's on the agenda, and I was hoping to talk to it to
my apology,
the fact
please.
That the councillors now have a mechanism where they can advise the community of the functions that they do attend on behalf of council. So yeah, this is a new initiative and one that's people can actually see what councillors are doing.
Thanks, Councillor Wilson. Councillor
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a bit of a small clarification. Just Councillor Wilson is correct. This is new. This is just going over the briefings that we do hold.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Thank you. Thank you. It's about the briefings.
You're just early.
Thank you. That's fine.
It's midday early.
Close.
Councillor Wilson, it's early in the evening. That's fine. We'll get there. All right. Councillors, item number 6 is obviously the declarations of conflicts of interest. Now, those that have a conflict. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Mayor. I've got a conflict of interest on item 9.3, C110, Glenelg Planning Scheme Review. My employer is mentioned within the documentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Although item 8 is listed as submissions for that I don't think there is anything, but I will declare item 8 and 9.2 as a general conflict, being an owner of a property 2 doors from this cafe.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Also like to declare a conflict of interest on 9.2, the planning application for 12 Henty. Could be perceived as a general conflict of interest, myself being in that industry and also quite close to the owners as well. So.
Thank you. Councillor Northcote.
Madam Mayor, 13.3 in the
Confidential section.
section of the meeting later, Tahara Merino Road.
Thank you, Councillor. Are there any further conflicts of interest? Those will all be noted. Thank you, councillors. Right, the next item, item 7, is the councillor activity reports that I think, Councillor Wilson, you were referring to. So, councillors, I will allow councillors to have their opportunity. Councillor Carr, Martin and Northcote and Councillor Robin McDonald and myself have submitted. Who would like to go first? You can have a couple of minutes each. Councillor Carr.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. The report is as tabled. Really just one addition in. I did also attend Hooked on Portland, which I thought was a fantastic event held within the Glenelg Shire. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Robin McDonald, did you want to make comment?
I had the privilege of attending the Hayward, promoting Hayward and District Volunteer Recognition event, which was an outstandingly run event, including the Portland Brass Band, a themed cake for the event, and a very large collection of volunteers from across the community. And for what was a very tough year for Hayward, it was great to see them all coming together and fabulous event.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to quickly touch on two. One was the VTIC Global Tourism Campaign, so the new launch of their, their marketing, their branding. A particular interest from that was also coming early this year in Melbourne. We're quite lucky to have the Australian Tourism Exchange, so I'm hoping that the Tourism Department, Ms Miller, will work closely with Gort to see if we can take full advantage of having operators come throughout Australia to Melbourne to see what wares we have down here in the southwest and see if we can try to attract some more tourism entities down this way. And the other one was a little bit unusual for myself. Earlier in the year, myself and Councillor Carr moved a motion regarding some issues at Cape Bridgewater there with the parking on the beach. And at that stage, I was a councillor. I didn't want to get involved in that. However, going to a meeting, I did get dragged in there personally, so I guess noting that I will declare a conflict of interest going forward with any matters that involve the parking at Cape Bridgewater.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Northcote.
Madam Mayor, I've lost my report in amongst all this paper. But there's 5 or 6 of things I attended, and they are listed in the...
Perhaps I could help you, Councillor Northcote. You attended down back in January down at the cruise ship regatta with me, and look, we did a couple of trips down with Councillor Carr and Councillor Northcote onto the wharf down there, greeting the guests as they came in, and really positive comments, particularly those that had spent 3 days at sea in fairly rough weather. And if people remember correctly, that the regatta came in about 12 hours earlier than planned, and it bypassed Kangaroo Island. So those guests on that cruise ship had been on there for 3 days, so they were pretty happy to get off, weren't they, Councillor Northcote?
Well, that included, Madam Mayor, the koala there. I still don't know what happened to the koala, but he was hopefully rescued from the...
He was rescued from the rocks and relocated, yes. Yes. Thank you. Look, just obviously as Mayor, I do a number of different activities from, I have to say, the Minister Teeny rang straight after the flood event here to see what assistance we needed here, Mr CEO, in relation to our floods and took a keen interest in that. Obviously, the Hooked on Portland event has been already suggested, and of course there's a number of other events that I've attended, and I think one of the really, really huge events that we went to, and Councillor Robin McDonald was there as well, was the 10th celebration of the Portland Community Garden. There was an outstanding number of people that attended that event, and it was really a really great celebration of that day. So a really worthwhile event, and council supported that community group over the years, and just to see how they've developed and how much integration they have with so many different groups in the Portland district community is really unbelievable. Of course, councillors, we've all been to the draft budget drop-in sessions in Nelson and Dartmoor, only on this list because the date ends at the end there, at the beginning of February. So they've been very valuable as we've moved around the Shire as well. This will be a regular event for the community updates from councillors' activity, as this item will remain on the agenda going forward. So thank you, councillors. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I haven't got anything listed.
That's because you're on
mainly
leave?
because I was on leave in
You were on
Cambodia, and I don't think we need to listen to me about the holiday trip.
I don't think you were doing that as a councillor, Councillor Wilson, so it's not appropriate.
Madam Mayor, my apologies for jumping the gun and,
That's right.
and misreading it earlier. But as I was saying, this is a very transparent and a great initiative for this council to put it out to the public on who's doing what, and it's up to them. So, Madam Mayor, I'll move the council notes councillor activity reports for 1 January to 9 February 2024.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Is there a seconder? Councillor Robin McDonald. If there's nothing further, councillors, I'll put that to the vote. Moved by Councillor Wilson, second by Councillor Robin McDonald. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, there's the submissions there on item number 8.
Madam Mayor, none of these submitters asked to present to the council.
Thank you. Therefore, noting, councillors, no recommendation there. We'll move on to the management report, councillors. Number 9, the Glenelg Shire Finance Report, January 2024.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Hall.
The finance report highlights there that total income increased by approximately $1 million through the month. That's probably about $3 million below which was forecasted to be, but that's mainly due to a Roads to Recovery grant, which we're expecting in March now. Development fee income's higher than anticipated due to the nature of the applications, not necessarily the numbers. This has been offset a little bit by the reduced user fees, as outlined previously regarding the aged and disability transition. Expenses increased by $3.5 million, but still $2.5 million below expected at this time, largely attributed to $800K in employee expenses under budget and $1.5 million in materials and services under where we hope to be at this point in time. However, our cash position has been maintained with lower than anticipated creditor runs from our most recent council meeting, sitting at approximately $4 million, similar to last month. Subsequently, we have not yet required to draw down the loan facility, and with our full rate payments due in a month and our instalment due later this week, don't expect to have to draw down any of the loan until probably at least May, pending how the capital works program progresses. Capital works expenditure increased by approximately $600K, but there's still about $12 million to be spent over the next 4 months to meet the forecast.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. Councillors, any questions on this item, please? Councillor Northcote.
I'd like to ask a question of Mr. Hall. Forgive my voice this evening, thanks. Trade and other payables, there's 2.7 million in fire services levy that are owing as a result of rates and charges being raised in the 23-24 year, and I note there's 260K of rate overpayments. How's with the fire services levy, with an in and out, why is it sort of affecting things? Is it perhaps an explanation there for me?
Mr Hall?
Madam Mayor, so it's essentially a timing issue. So we have certain times where we actually pay the fire services levy. I think there was a payment just gone in our February creditor run of about $1.2 million for that. So it's essentially a timing component. The second item, you're talking about rates overpayments. Again, it's largely related to timing. Some people have paid their rates earlier than actually expected, and it balances out usually towards the end of the year.
Thank you.
Any further question, Councillor? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr Hall, I just want to check I know I harp on this about this every month, the asset renewal ratio, it's sitting around 80% in the document there, and that's obviously the renewal and the upgrade over the depreciation. Previously, it's been below that 50% and up around that 60% now. What's sort of changing that ratio? What's the reason behind those changes?
Again, through the Mayor, so it's calculated on the figures that we have there, but as previously highlighted, the data in which we're basing our information on needs refinement, and we would anticipate that a more appropriate renewal gap is probably closer to the 50%. There is a body of work that will need to be done, which will take a significant amount of time, looking at life cycle or age of particular assets and how they're classified, which will go into that calculation.
Thank you, Mr Hall. And one further question, Madam Mayor. I think you've already touched on this, but I'll ask that question anyway, Mr Hall. The forecast budget, the working capital is sitting around 129%, which is close to roughly the 120% local government sort of requires or likes. Any further comments on that? Is that going to cause us any problems? Obviously, it goes towards the lending, but sorry, not lending, the borrowing. Any commentary?
Through the Mayor. So again, it's going to largely be dependent on how we progress with our capital works projects. We have a significant amount of works in the system which are not scheduled to be done until next year as well. We do anticipate at the 30th of June going down to about $4 million worth in our cash reserve.
Fantastic.
Thank you. Any further questions, councillors? Watching Councillor Carr. No? Thank you, councillors. There's a recommendation on page 9.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll move the recommendation that Council receives a financial report for the period ending January 2024.
Thank you, Councillor.
I'll second that, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Robin McDonald has seconded that.
Any opposed?
Nothing further?
Just one quick
Do you want
comment.
a question?
Yeah, just one quick comment, Madam Mayor. I guess more of a comment or a question to Mr Hall. That monthly reports aren't required. Is the local government only requires them quarterly? Is that correct, Mr Hall?
Through the Mayor, that is correct, yes.
So we certainly go above and beyond with reporting the council does. So I'd like to thank the department for that.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Robin McDonald, did you wish to comment on anything?
No, just timing's everything. I like that. That's true.
Timing's everything, of course it is. All right. The motion has been moved by Councillor Martin and seconded by Councillor Robin McDonald. Those in favour? It's carried. Thank you. Now we'll move on to 9.2, and I note that 2 councillors have declared conflicts, so thank you. Just for the community to know that when a councillor declares a conflict of interest, they must leave the chamber and not partake in any anything to do with this particular item. Councillors, Mr Berry, did you want to give a quick overview of this particular item? Thank you. So Mr Matt Berry will give an overview, councillors, of this particular item for 12, the planning application for 12 Henty Street, Portland. Thank you, Mr Berry.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the application we have before council is an application to use the land to sell and consume liquor at the 12-fold Portland business at 12 Henty Street in Portland. The application was received in October and it has received a number of submissions and for this reason needs to be considered at the council meeting. The proposal looks to trade for the current cafe that's operating a on-premises licence, so that's a licence to sell and consume liquor associated with the consumption of food on the premises. The application proposes to trade from 12 midday to 12 at midnight for special events. So the application has been considered against the Glenelg planning scheme and also considered the submissions that have been made in relation to this application. The officers have assessed that report, which is attached to this application, where we have recommended that it can be approved with a notice of decision as per the conditions that are attached to that. One of the slight changes is the modification of the hours that have been pulled back from 12 midnight to 11 p.m. So that's one of the key changes the officers have recommended as part of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Councillors, are there any questions in relation to this planning application for
Yes,
Mr.
through you,
Berry?
Madam Mayor.
Councillor Robert
Mr. Berry,
McDonald.
could you just confirm that if there's any extension of any of those conditions requested by the applicant, that they would have to come back through planning as well as through the liquor licence organisation?
Yeah,
Mr.
so
Berry.
so thank you. So through the Mayor, the application for the liquor licence, there is a red line plan which shows where they can sell and consume the liquor. So if the red line plan was to be extended, or if the hours to be increased, and then I can confirm that the applicant would have to reapply for an application through the Liquor Licence Commission as well as council with the planning new application.
Thank you. Councillor Carr, did you have any questions? No? Mr. Berry, just in relation to some of the submissions, I noted that you've obviously worked with the applicant to adjust their time of taking out the trash, etc. That has satisfied some of the submitters?
So thank you, Madam. So through the application process, the submissions were forwarded to the permit applicant, where they've responded to some of the concerns about adjusting some of the times, noting that there is a body corporate on that premises to try and ameliorate some of the concerns raised.
Thank you, and thank you for doing that. Okay, councillors, there's any comments, Councillor Northcote?
I'm prepared.
You're prepared to move the motion on page 11?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That council issues a notice of decision to grant a permit for use of land to sell and consume liquor, cafe licence in inverted commas, at 12 Henty Street, Portland, in accordance with the red line plan circulated in attachment 5 and notice of decision circulated in attachment 4. Thank you.
Thank you,
I'll second
Councillor
that,
Northcote.
Madam.
Councillor Carr beat you by... Councillor Carr, you've seconded that?
Second, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Northcote, did you want to talk to that? You don't have to stand, John, if you don't wish to. That's fine.
Well,
no, that's fine.
There's a lot of work gone into this,
Yes, there's
Madam
something
Mayor,
there.
from the people involved, and I could see it was going to end up in tears for someone, and I certainly hope there's enough enough things to work through so that it doesn't upset the 6 or so residents who live in that premise. That's about all, Madam Mayor. I applaud probably the operator of the business. Apparently it's quite a busy operation, and any coffee shop deserves all the support it can get from the community.
Thank you, Councillor Northcote. Councillor Carr, did you want to make any commentary as the seconder?
No further comment, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I'll put the motion. It's been moved by Councillor Northcote and seconded by Councillor Carr. Those in favour? It is carried. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Mr. CEO. We'll wait for Councillor Wilson and Councillor Martin to return to the chamber. Councillor Carr. Mr. Berry, happy to do this. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to 9.3, which is the planning scheme review and 2023 implementation. Mr. Berry. Thank you.
Madam Mayor,
Oh,
I've got a conflict of interest. I'd like to...
we'll work through that. Thank you, Councillor Carr.
Thanks, Laura.
Thank you for reminding me. We've muted you. We'll cut him off. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Berry. Sorry about that.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So the Planning Scheme Amendment C110 before Council is seeking to implement some of the recommendations from the Planning Scheme Review undertaken in 2023. The Planning Scheme Review that was previously submitted to Council as a statutory requirement needed to be done every 4 years and contains a range of recommendations. So this Planning Scheme Amendment before Council seeks to make a number of administrative and technical changes to the planning scheme. So that includes things such as updating ABS figures, including the update of the council plan vision in it, updating other policies such as recognising the World Heritage listing of Budge BIM. So there's a number of changes like that. It also includes changes required by the state government in formatting and other grammatical errors and language within the scheme. And then another key one is in the farming and rural zones, there are setback triggers of 100 metres from waterways and wetlands currently, which trigger a lot of permits for farm sheds. So Council, in consultation with the Glenelg Hopkins Catchment Management Authority, have established that distance is longer than it needs to be, so the planning scheme seeks to reduce that to 30 metres, so that if any sheds are within 30 metres, they trigger a permit instead of 100 metres. So that change will be anticipate to reduce the number of permits that council has to consider, and also that farmers and people living on rural properties need to apply for. So this application is before council to seek commencing the planning scheme process, where we'll be seeking to approach the Minister for Planning to authorise it and pursue exhibition of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. Councillors, any questions of Mr. Berry? Everybody round?
I suppose, Madam Mayor, if I may, it's probably, being a farmer, it's pleasing to see some easing of some of the restrictions and things that are required for covered sheep yards, say, and machinery, stroke hay sheds, and so it's a step in the right direction as far as the people I represent concerned. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Berry, I see that the amendment also picks up Budge BIM UNESCO site, which has obviously been added since the last review, which is excellent. So there's a number of amendments there. So it changes a lot in the 4 years, doesn't it? It certainly does. All right, councillors, there's a recommendation on page 14. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the council seeks authorisation from the Minister for Planning under section 8A, part 3 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987 to prepare and exhibit Glenelg Planning Scheme Amendment C110 and GELG.
Yeah. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll second that.
Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It is a bit of a dry subject, the old planning works, but I probably will double up on what the officer has produced, but I spent the time, so I'm going to read it out. The council, as the planning authority for the Glenelg Planning Scheme, is required to review its planning scheme every 4 years under Section 12B of the Planning and Environment Act 1987. It acknowledges the significance of Budge BIM as a World Heritage Site, as mentioned twice. Amendment C110 seeks to implement the recommendations of the Planning Scheme Review of 2023 and to make administrative changes to the Glenelg Planning Scheme, such as corrections, updating ordinance and references, and to align with the ministerial direction. It also updates the referral of permit applications under local provisions at clause 66.04. Also to reduce the setback planning permit requirement to waterways in the farming and rural living zones, as we've already heard. The recommendation is to seek authorisation from the Minister for Planning to prepare and exhibit the amendment C110 GELG.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Any comments
Thank you.
from Councillor Martin?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think, like Councillor Wilson said, there were several hundred pages worth of reading, so I could have 20 seconds. Obviously, the main changes were the recognition of the traditional owners, along with planning requirements for the for water sources for farmers. I think any time we can cut down a little bit of red tape to help some building permits, that's always a good thing. And obviously, as Councillor Wilson happened to mention, every 4 years, I'm Mr. Berry as well, every 4 years. Goes together obviously with our council plan as well, so that wording's updated, and then it picks up some grammatical stuff. I did notice the spelling of a town wasn't quite 100% correct, so that was a good catch there, Mr. Berry. And thank you for that body of work. As Councillor Wilson said, it's a very dry subject, but it takes a strong person to do it, so thank you.
Thank you, councillors. The motion has been moved by Councillor Wilson and seconded by Councillor Martin. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Could we have Councillor Carr back, please?
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Councillors, we'll move on to 9.4, the Volunteers Awards 2024. Ms Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I report before you with a proposal for 2 events. One is a community awards event to be held at Haywood with 7 event categories, and the other is of volunteer appreciation activities across the Shire in 4 localities. Going backwards, Council made a decision to exit or step away from the Jan 26 Citizen of the Year Awards as part of the decision there. So we've come forward with a plan for replacing those awards. You'll see a bit of a change from recognition, the volunteer recognition to volunteer appreciation, and that's to, I guess, feed into the awards events and to give them more status and power. And really over to councillors for feedback and discussion around the proposal.
Thanks, Ms Miller. Councillors. Councillor Robin McDonald.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Ms Miller, I just noticed the Outstanding Achievement Award has been added. Can we just confirm that that is open to individuals, groups, organisations? We're not just talking that as an individual, are we?
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Yeah, that award as it stands in the report is for an individual, yes. And there's a separate category for a community group.
Okay,
yep.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I guess commentary / questions. I think it's a great idea we're refreshing this and that we could possibly take the opportunity to come at it from a different angle. And I've noticed here that we've got Senior of the Year Award and Youth of the Year Award, which is what we've had previously. For myself, I believe age is not a barrier for a lot of, for anything really. You don't have to be old to do a lot of projects or do a lot of recognised volunteering, and the same thing, you don't have to be young to do a lot of youth work. You can be a senior citizen to do that. So is there any particular thought of why we still do go with a Senior of the Year and a Youth of the Year rather than actually having some sort of different categories?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. That's a nod to the previous awards on Australia Day, where those categories were part of that award system. So it's a nod back to that.
That's fantastic. I've also noticed the arts and culture, Miss Miller, is included in that as well, something that's quite different. But I believe that's obviously a focal point at Glenelg Shire. Any reasoning behind that particular category being included?
Yeah, we thought it was a great opportunity to recognise the work that's happening in this area. There's not a lot of opportunity for people who are doing progressing work in the community, so we thought it was a nice opportunity to raise the profile of that particular area of work.
So any particular projects or people that's sort of not aimed at, but gives rise for people to actually put an application for what works or what areas in the community?
Oh, look, it could be artists, it could be people leading some work in cultural inclusion, it could be a broad range of things. So I think as it's a new award, it will be interesting to see what the nominations come in with.
Madam Mayor, if I can have one more. The other one was Diversity and Inclusion Award. I think when we look at awards for the community, we want to look at what we currently do, but what we want to do as a society or as a community. And obviously, the Diversion and Inclusion Award is something that is councillors are very focused and very in mind on it. So I don't know if you provide any further explanation into that particular category.
Yeah, thank you. Agree completely. That's a future-focused award of where we would like to go. So we've tried to have that blend of some old and some new into the awards.
Fantastic. And if I can provide a comment, Madam Mayor, I know it's not on here, but sports is key to, I guess, regional communities, country communities. And I know like a coach or a outstanding athlete of the year, in times of trouble, our sporting clubs play a massive role and generally the backbone of our communities for a lot of people. I would have liked to have seen that sort of award, but I guess that's up to fellow councillors whether they're willing to have a look at that or not. Now, that's enough for me, Madam Mayor. I'm sure other councillors want to have some say on how we go about doing this.
Councillors.
Madam
Councillor Robert McDonald.
I suggest that the Outstanding Achievement Award may cover that.
I agree. Councillor Wilson.
I think, Madam Mayor, the Outstanding Achievement Award should encompass both team or individual, because we have had some nominations that haven't fitted into the previous set of or suite of awards, where Outstanding Achievement Award might, if you win a medal at in the Olympics, well, that's an Outstanding Achievement Award. If you're a local team wins an event that hasn't been won by this Shire, well, they should be able to nominate for the Outstanding Achievement Award. We're not talking a basketball premiership that there's a premiership every year, twice a year in a number of grades, but maybe if a footy club was to finally win a grand final after a drought of many years, that could be an Outstanding Achievement Award. But you get other achievement awards where some people maybe accompanied with a dog and fundraise on one event. It could whereas all the others are usually a lot of hours of volunteering and doing work, where this one focuses on a fantastic event. Thank you. I believe.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor
Well,
Cole.
I perhaps would comment, two councillors to my right were at Haywood on Thursday night last, and before the Wood, Wine and Roses, and there would have been 35 people there volunteering their services through the whole weekend and the setting up of the thing, and it was good to see a bit of a demographic happening there of, dare I say it, the middle-aged type group, because most of the committees and things like around Merino are getting fairly silver-headed, and it's certainly good to see the commitment by the Haywood community to the Wood, Wine and Roses last Thursday.
Thank you, Councillor Northgate. I perhaps, and I'll just pick up Councillor Carr, did you have a comment? Sorry.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, I think the commentary is, my understanding is that the Citizen of the Year Awards, as they were always Citizen of the Year Awards, we just happened to give them out at the Australia Day events. Is that your understanding, councillors?
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
And it was always our intention to continue with the Citizen of the Year Awards, just at a different time of year, and that's what this is picking up. Well, I'm hoping the recommendation picks that up.
Yes, that's right, Councillor Carr, and this will be undertaken through Volunteer Week in May, which is nationally celebrated throughout May. If I could just make a comment, just Councillor Martin, just in relation to Citizen of the Year and Youth of the Year, whilst I agree with you that age doesn't define the activity, and I think, you know, we had the Citizen of the Year, the Youth Citizen of the Year, the Senior Citizen of the Year, and we had those quite specifically because we didn't want anybody to miss out because the Citizen of the Year was so highly contested that you would miss out on giving an award to a senior, and particularly our youth that do some amazing things in our community, that you'd be caught in between of just one Citizen of the Year award. So it's not it's about recognition, I think, more than anything else. And councillors, in here, I also pick up that that the thought of just having these awards being undertaken throughout Volunteer Week at our locations, and normally our locations are the report does reflect on it: Nelson, Casterton, Hayward, and Portland. And I would hope that we could actually really make these really great events in those 4 communities, and present those awards at those 4 communities. So, Councillor Robert McDonald.
Through you, Madam Mayor, can I just make one more observation? That these awards come from nomination from peers or groups that other people belong to. Mr. Miller, can you just share how the promotion of these awards, in terms of encouraging people to nominate people, takes place? In terms of getting the breadth of that out there, because there's always that comparison. Oh, I think so and so would have been better, but if so and so wasn't nominated, then there's nothing council can do about that. So if you just share how that promotion takes place.
Yeah, so we would definitely reflect on the work done with the previous awards through the Australia Day event and see how that worked and the reach with that. I mean, that comes with its own branding, I suppose, so that it's a lot easier to get the message out. We haven't written a communication strategy to attach to this report yet. We're waiting on the council resolution, but we would make a huge effort this year because it is a new awards event. It's in a different time of the year, and we would want to really foster a strong group of nominations coming forward to the council.
Thank you, Ms. Miller.
Ms. Miller, I would think that we have quite extensive databases of our community groups and volunteers that we could use that for as well. Yeah, thank you, Councillors. Anything further? Councillor
Just
Martin.
one comment, Madam Mayor, and Ms. Miller, I might ask this question, but I know what the answer is going to be. Obviously, the Mayor mentioned the 4 Nelson, Hayward, Casterton and Portland. Be remiss of me not to mention places like Dartmoor, a substantial volunteer base, along with Merino and Digby. Any reason we can't have that many celebrations? I know there's no reason we can't, but obviously it does come at a cost to council. And then how many places do we go to? So you've got Narrawong, that's now up and coming as well. So I am conscious of, I'm sort of asking my own question here.
Well, yeah, I think, thanks,
the
Madam Mayor.
answer-
The budget is tight, and we've aligned it to what's happened in the past with the 4 localities. So, yeah.
I just don't want those places to think that they've missed out. We do think about them, but we do have budget constraints as well, Madam Mayor.
I think, Councillor Martin, the reality is that Volunteer Week is a week, not throughout the whole month of May. So there's only realistically how many you can go around. And I think that, traditionally, but it's a really good question, traditionally Merino people will travel to Casterton and Dartmoor people will travel to Hayward. So, there's a crossover there, but they're our localities.
Madam Mayor,
Wilson?
I think we're at a stage where we need a motion on the
Yes, thank
table.
you. If you're prepared to move, Councillor Wilson.
Yeah, okay. I move the council during Volunteer Week 1 conducts volunteer and recognition events in the following towns: Nelson, Hayward, Casterton, Portland. 2, presents the following awards: Citizen of the Year Award, Senior Citizen of the Year, Youth Citizen of the Year, Community Group of the Year Award, Volunteer of the Year, Diversity and Inclusion Award, Arts and Culture Award, Outstanding Achievement Award. 3, Council Administration provide a report to Council with recommendations for the award winners. And 4, Council presents these award winners in the relevant townships.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
I would second it.
Second that one? Thank you. Councillor Wilson.
Madam Mayor, it's certainly important for this council to acknowledge those that work within our community, and the work that some of them do is so outstanding that they do need to be recognised. The added list of awards, the new awards that we're presenting, just expresses council's appreciation of the arts and the culture community out there. And the Diversity and Inclusion Award, another new one that will bring together people from that area. I think it's very important for this council to make the presentation of the winners within their own township or at the location where they wish to attend to be presented. The Citizen of the Year Award, Madam Mayor, is the prime award that this Shire could ever bestow on a citizen, and I think it's imperative that this council continue what has been a part of history from previous local governments within this area. So, Madam Mayor, I put this to council for their full support.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Northcote, as the seconder, did you wish to make any comment?
No, I'd just like to say, I suppose, that the recipient of the Merino Citizen of the Year on January the 26th was a gentleman. He's in his 90s and still volunteering, taking people to medical appointments and whatever you like, even as far as Warrnambool and even Melbourne, I think. So Ian is a very worthy recipient of that award in Merino.
Thank you, councillors. The amended motion was put by Councillor Wilson and seconded by Councillor Northcote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, we'll move on to 9.5, the Glenelg Shire Plan Second Quarter Performance Report 2023-24. Ms Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, second quarter report for Year 3. Pleasingly, most of our major and priority projects are either on track or achieved. And within the report, the remainder of projects, the status has been updated with some commentary, particularly if there is a delay. Happy to take questions where I can, as the projects obviously spread the breadth of the organisation. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms Miller. Councillors. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I can go forever on this, so we'll just keep it short if we can-ish. Ms Miller, the major projects, Portland Employment Precinct. I think councillors know what that is, but Mr Husband is probably the more appropriate person to just provide a little commentary on what that is and why that's important, perhaps.
Yes, thank you, Councillor, through the Mayor. In fact, that's a really important project for the entry to Portland. It's the Bunnings site plus the further development adjacent to that. So it's a project that's ticking along after a lot of work from council staff.
So obviously the reason I brought that up is a lot of misinformation out on social media that Bunnings is not coming, but obviously the application is still there and still live.
The parties with that application are still in play.
That's good to hear. The one that I buzzed on about when I first got here, I think it's the worst road in the Shire, the local freight road's Fitzgerald Street. I'm excited to sort of hear a bit of information about that if you could.
Thank you, Councillor, through the Mayor. In fact, that's been awarded, that contract, so it's progressing. There is a lot of work to be done in that area. It's quite an expensive and extensive project.
So are we ripping that up and completely going again, or because obviously the freight and the weight of the trucks?
Through the mayor, yes, absolutely. It's a road that was under designed for the level of traffic and the weight that's going through there.
Beautiful, thank you. Ms Miller, I just noticed on page 9, but I won't, you can go there if you like. Highlights, and the reason I asked this question is it's come up in a few of our budget meetings we've held around the Shire, Madam Mayor. Highlights Council does do some work in weed eradication. Anything more you could add to that? Grants we get, why we don't do more, can we do more? Because obviously it's part of our 4-year plan, Madam Mayor, and it's...
Mr Husband might be able to answer that.
Thank you, Councillor, through the mayor. Very limited budget on that, Councillor. We keep seeking funding for that. One of the major issues with that, we can only attack public land, and a lot of the weed and vermin issues extend into private land as well. So it's one of those never-ending battles.
Thank you. Can I keep going? If Councillor's got other questions, otherwise I can keep going. Yeah. Keep going, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, if I don't mind. Page legend, now this come up again on social media, FOGO and waste. Where are you at? I know the councillors know what's going on, but I think it'd be good in this public forum to, I guess, let the community know. 2 particular ones, the glass bin, why didn't council roll these out last year? And obviously some commentary on that. I suppose I'll let you go with that question first.
Thank you, Councillor. And through the mayor, we're still doing work on those particular areas, particularly FOGO and green waste management. That's an area that we'd like to see reduce and actually perhaps lead into circular economy type aspects. In terms of the glass, that's still part of our strategy overall. And in fact, this container deposit scheme has had a significant impact on that. So we're waiting to see what their data is eventually on that. And I think it was a good move by council in the position that we have at the moment with the container deposits.
So anecdotally, I heard that other councils that have implemented the the glass bins, they're not getting filled as much. So it's a bit of a money pit and not a return value for money. Is that a fair assessment for them?
Councillor, through the mayor, that's absolute fact at the moment.
So
yes,
very much a smart move of the council. One that I did sort of pick up was provided some commentary on page 45. Has some property works at 4%, which is a little bit low for my liking. I'm expecting that to increase a lot. Where's the story there? Sorry, I'll let you get to that page there. It's down a bit there,
page
sorry.
45, it's a lot of
45, yeah, so the property works, got the little circles there, one of them was at 4%, which means we haven't carried out a lot of the property works. I'm assuming that had to do with timing?
Through you, Madam Mayor. Director Hull, would you like to respond to that one or take that on notice?
I think through the Mayor, I'm happy to respond, and I'd probably refer the Councillor to the finance report in particular in regarding to the capital expenditure. Property also includes the Portland multifunctional building at several $1 million as well. So when you consider that that's not likely to build in this financial year, that affects the percentage.
Sorry, this is a bit of a loaded question, but I thought I'd just make that highlight. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Councillor Northcote.
I'd like to make probably a statement, and on page 9, and Councillor Scott alluded to, was weeds and trees, and it's probably easy to just drive past at 100 clicks an hour if you can do that on some of the roads coming from the north. These forests, there's hardly pristine roadside vegetation. There's Mr Kerr here in town writes letters from time to time, and most of it's blackberry, cotoneaster. There's those tall South American...
Sweet pitostrum.
Sorry?
Sweet pitostrum.
Oh, well, there's pitostrum, but there's that other... Oh, blackberry, the whole works and jerks. It's easy to say, oh well, there's no money here, and but the forest, the roadsides are impenetrable, and would never, the Hentys or Major Mitchell would never have come down here if he had to endure what's going on the roadsides at Bulwara and right through to Hayward and even north of Hayward. That's probably a statement from myself on that. And I was just wondering, what use have we made of the hot waters reserves here in Portland to board's heating originally was this building, but having been out of the loop for 7 or 8 years, where are we with the hot water?
Mr Husband?
Thank you, Councillor. Through the Mayor, the thermal loop upgrade is still a project that we're working on at the moment, so that's still progressing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Question,
Councillor
Madam
Wilson.
Mayor. A lot of the areas that Councillor Northcote was talking about with the weeds, wouldn't they be state government responsibility and not necessarily those of local government?
I would believe so, Councillor Wilson.
Councillor, through the Mayor. Yes, that's the case. And in fact, there's a lot of weedy type woody weeds out there that haven't been declared noxious, like coastal wattle, that are infringing on our roads as well.
Thank you, Mr Husband. Good.
Okay. Thank you. Councillors, sometimes we get commentary from the community members about, how do we find out what council's doing and where can we find the KPIs and, the key performance indicators that the council plan is on track or being delivered. So I just expressed to the community that these are our quarterly reports. They are very comprehensive reports. There's 5 odd pages here that the staff have put together. I do suggest that you go to our website or go into one of our customer service centres and ask for the detail of these quarterly reports. They are the measures against our council plan. And I thank Ms Miller and her team for putting this quarterly report together. Councillors, there is a motion there on page 20. Is somebody prepared to move, please? Councillor Carr?
Yeah, I'm happy to move it, Madam Mayor. Move the recommendation that Council endorses the Glenelg Shire Council Plan second quarter performance report for year 3 of the 21-25 Council Plan and approves the documentation for publication.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Seconder?
Councillor
Northcote. Any commentary, Councillor Carr?
I think you covered it quite well, Madam Mayor. I would like to highlight, though, that one of the strategic initiatives we put together 4 years ago was the Narrawong and Dutton Way structure plans, and it's good to see that that is progressing in this quarter. And it's obviously a growth area within our community, and it's we do need to plan for what that area looks like over the next few decades.
Thank you, Councillor Carr. Councillor Northcote, any comments?
No comment, but I would like to know, there's a meeting at Narrawong tomorrow, 10 p.m, is it?
Yeah.
PM or AM?
Okay.
AM, I mean. Is that correct?
No.
10 o'clock tomorrow. I'll forget if I don't ask now, because I'm planning to go there, that's all.
Mr Hall, can you just help me out with that one?
Madam Mayor, there's, as part of the structure plan, there's a regular group that meets at Narrawong. I'm not sure if it's 10 or 10:30 in the morning. So part of our consultation is engaging with that specific group that already meet there on this particular day as well. But there are information sessions coming up, and there's some advertising being launched and media release in regards to those later dates as well, for other areas of the community to have an input into the proposed structure plan.
Thank you, Mr Hall.
Thank you for your indulgence.
That's fine, Councillor. Right, the motion on page 20 has been moved by Councillor Carr and seconded by Councillor Northcote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you, councillors. We'll move on to 9.6, the Glenelg Shire Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan 2021-25. Year 2 Action Plan Report 2022-24-23. Ms Miller.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm very pleased to present the report on the Year 2 Action Plan to you today. There's 2 main goals in the Municipal Health and Wellbeing Plan that we work to, with a significant number of supporting partners. And on page 4 of the report, you'll see the partners and the logo. So I'd just like to publicly acknowledge them and thank them for their support in delivering this plan. There's some current trends that we've picked up through this process, which is around mental health, healthy eating and social and cultural inclusion. And as we work towards the Year 3 action plan, we'll pick up some of those themes as well, and we'll come back to you with another report in the future. This is a very broad plan again, like the council plan. I will take questions where I can, and if I can't, I'll take them on notice, but I'll do my best. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms Miller. Councillors, questions on this report? Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'll keep the commentary going. Page 12, Ms Miller, and I think most of the Portland community will be glad with this one. Better quality water, obviously one of those partners that you highlighted on page 4, the 36 logos there. One of them is Wannon Water, or Wannon Water, wherever you come from. Any further information about that?
I don't have anything personally at the moment, Councillor Martin, other than what's been put out publicly in Facebook, etc., in the public realm.
Just to clarify, it's not council's role to provide better tasting water, but we do partner with organisations to try and spearhead that as well.
Correct.
So I just want to clarify that before we get commentary. Why isn't council providing better water? I did notice, as you mentioned, there's the two actions there: building healthy and wellbeing communities, along with building strong communities. There's 65 actionables under the building healthy and 53 under the building strong communities. I went through every single one and counted as well. How did they actually come about?
Thank you, Councillor Martin. We host workshops and stakeholder engagement sessions. We conduct an extensive survey with university and Bowen Health, and we arrive at those actions based on that. So that engagement, yeah.
And obviously the 4-year council plan feeds into that as well?
Yeah, correct. And it talks to the 2040 vision, council vision as well.
Yes,
Thank you. Councillors? Councillor Northcote.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I noted, as we were talking about this, I've dog-eared quite a number of pages in this report, and it's pretty concerning to my way of thinking with the head issues that's out there. There's people who've got all sorts of problems, and I don't know where it's going to be addressed, but it's pretty big issue for all councils, I'd imagine, but it's probably a bigger issue for a state government that's broke. So I don't know how it's going to be fixed, but it's a lot of issues in this report, and it's well worth reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Northcote. Cool. Any further questions, councillors? And I pick up your comment, Ms Miller, you know, there's over 70 partners that council partners with this report. So it's a very inclusive report, and, you know, those partners have a lot of involvement in our community and our wellbeing and obviously the public health. Councillors, there's a motion, a recommendation on page 22. Somebody prepared to move. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Move that the council receives the Glenelg Shire Council Municipal Public Health and Wellbeing Plan 21-25, Year 2 Action Plan Report 22 to 23.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Northcote. Seconded. Any commentary, Councillor Martin?
Yes, Madam Mayor. Comprehensive report, so I wouldn't mind just spending a good minute talking about it. So if you believe council is just roads, rates and rubbish, you need to get with the times. The Municipal Public Health Wellbeing Plan is a requirement by the state government. So when people ask what do their rates go towards, this report gives a pretty good example, councillors. When someone says this doesn't affect them, or their rates don't get used on themselves, you don't know how wrong you are. Program that was highlighted in here is the L2P program. That's a really good example. So you might not have a son or daughter that needs driving experience, Madam Mayor. However, I'm tipping you're wanting to share the road with other users that are as ready as they possibly can be. Road fatalities in rural communities affect us all, and programs like this go a long way to building capacity in our communities. That's what this program does, this plan does. Diversion programs for drugs and alcohol fall on local councils quite often to carry out in conjunction with our partners that were listed on page 4 there. What impact would it have on communities if these programs are no longer existed? Mothers groups and ABA in conjunction with the Shire give new mothers support. Postnatal depression is a real thing, and how many mothers have found their support they need through programs like this that Council provide. That's why it's vitally important we see this through. We have these programs, these actions in place, because Council is more than roads, rates and rubbish, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Martin. Councillor Northcote, did you have anything to add?
No.
That's fine, thank you, Councillor. It's been moved by Councillor Martin, second by Councillor Northcote. Those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Councillors, that brings us towards the end of our general meeting tonight. There are any notices or motions?
No, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Urgent business?
No.
Thank you, Mr. CEO. Question time. Questions that are being received from members of the community. First question is from Mr. David Hedlam. My question relates to Council's response to a question asked in December re green waste. My understanding is that the free green waste disposal in November is an incentive to get people to clean up their properties prior to the bushfire season. I cite the township of Nelson, previously identified as one of the most unsafe towns in Victoria. This town is, in my opinion, a time bomb waiting to happen. Can this council guarantee that this initiative will remain? Mr. Husband, I'll ask you to respond as Director of Assets and Infrastructure, please.
Yes, through the Mayor. Thank you for your question, Mr. Hedlam. Annual free green waste collection at Nelson and all transfer stations is an important part of encouraging people to clean up their properties. As always, these services come at a cost to council and are subject to annual budgets.
Thank you, Mr. Husband. Your question to Mr. Hedlam. Do you think it is fair and reasonable that a ratepayer who makes a 3-hour return journey to attend a council meeting to ask a question has his or her question incorrectly read, and that the question recorded in the minutes of the meeting does not reflect either what was read at question time or what was submitted in writing? Would it not be better if the questioner asked the question, his or her question? Thank you for your question, Mr. Hedlam. And I apologise if I read your question incorrectly previously. And Mr. Hedlam, you know that Council recently adopted a revised governance rules, which enables me to read the questions and answers to be given by either myself or whoever I nominate. Question 3. Do you think it is fair and reasonable for ratepayers that may have to travel up to 3 hours round trip to attend a council meeting to ask a question to be put last on the agenda? Can this be changed so that the people travelling from afar can ask their questions and then leave the meeting rather than wait until the end of the meeting? Once again, Mr. Hedlam, I thank you for your question. Often our questions from the gallery are certainly answered throughout the course of the meeting as council conducts its business. And of course, as I've said before, Mr. Hedlam, there's many opportunities for ratepayers and residents of the Glenelg Shire to make contact with council or councillors each day. That's through our customer service centres. You can phone us or email us. Thank you. Next question is from Mr. Gary Hum. Question 1. A few weeks ago, my local GP informed me he was forced into making a difficult decision to leave the town. This decision was forced upon him due to the failure of this town's prioritising essential service workers for childcare. Potential for the economic development and sustainability of rural communities collates to its ability to retain essential service workers. What representations has the council made to the government to ensure this situation does not occur again? Ms. Miller, can I ask you to please respond to that?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank thank you for your question, Mr Hum, and I do welcome the opportunity to update the community in this area. Council do prioritise and value children's services, and we substantially subsidise this service for the community. At the federal level, Council contributed to the Productivity Commission review into early childhood education and care in May 2023 and again in February 2024 in response to the draft report, which is available now. Both submissions that Council have made are publicly available online. The Productivity Commission review was commissioned by the federal government and is due to be submitted 30 June 2024. Key recommendations in that draft report that we have supported include revision of the childcare subsidy to address affordability barriers for families, consideration towards cost of living pressures and increased costs of service delivery for providers, addressing pay and conditions that are essential for attracting and retaining early childhood educators, a universal early years system that is inclusive of all children, greater flexibility for regional areas where families may be required to travel longer commutes for work or may be in jobs that are seasonal, such as agriculture, forestry and fishing, protracted intervals and the lengthy process of the National Quality Assessment process, an establishment of the Early Years Commission to support a coordinated approach across the sector. At the state level, Council have received funding to deliver a workforce plan and an infrastructure and services plan to prepare for the Best Start, Best Life reforms that we need to adopt by 2027. I want to note that pressures in the early years workforce are complex and reform is required across the sector at both the federal and state level. So we need to recognise that a one-size-fits-all approach will not work in regional, remote and rural communities.
Thank you, Ms Mellon. The second question, the Welcome to Portland signage. Tonight I seek full disclosure of the financial and efficiency report of this project. Will you declare the precise details regarding the expected completion time and budget estimate figures compared to the final cost and completion date? Mr Husband, can you respond to that, please?
Yes, through the Mayor. Thank you for your question, Mr Hum. The Portland Gateway signage project was commenced in November 2020. The design options were presented to Council workshop in May 2021 and work was completed in August 2022. Several location options were also a key part of this project. The original budget was $150,000 in 2021 financial year budget, and the final cost was $191,197 in the 2022 financial year. Any project to change or redesign the Portland Gateway signage would be a matter for Council.
Thank you, Mr Husband. Mr Jarlett, your first question. It has been said that the Glenelg Shire Business and Tourism Awards are one of the Shire's biggest nights. I read in the local paper that it was quoted as saying the funds were not allocated for the Business and Tourism Awards because it was an oversight for the full amount in the budget. How did the major oversight occur? Mr Jarlett, thank you for your question. It is my understanding that it was an oversight and it's a biannual event and it was just purely an oversight in preparing the budget. Question 2, I understand that the preparation of the Council's yearly budget is a massive undertaking completed over the span of months. There is a concern in the community about the oversight that saw funds for the Glenelg Business and Tourism Awards not being allocated in this year's budget as it should have been. Why shouldn't the community be concerned about other important priorities were also not included in the budget? Mr Hall, would you like to respond to that, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As you've already highlighted and is even listed in the question, the compilation of a council budget is quite a complex. It has thousands of line items. It goes not only through staff, it goes through the community and it goes through council. As you've highlighted with the particular business awards, there's a number of competing issues. It was 2 yearly, there was potential change in times and there's also a number of different staff. I think that the suggestion that because of that particular matter that is attributed elsewhere in the budget is quite a long bow to draw and there's no evidence to suggest that there's any other particular issues of concern.
Thank you, Mr Hall. Question 3. How will this council's current financial position and debt level impact its ability to undertake major projects within the next 5 years? Mr Hole, can you answer that one too, please?
Yes, Madam Mayor. So certainly council does have a limit to its debt level. We've also talked earlier about the status of council where its loan position is. But it's not just the debt level, Madam Mayor. We've got the major projects are impacted by council's overall financial situation, its operational commitments, particularly rate capping, capital renewal, as we've touched on earlier before, and grant opportunities.
Thank you, Mr Hole. Councillors and members of the public, this brings us to the end of our general meeting. We'll now go into a confidential meeting and we will move the closure to members of the public of the meeting. There's a recommendation on page 24, councillors.
So moved. Second.
Councillor McDonald, Councillor Wilson, those in favour? Thank you. Members of the public, we now will go into contractual discussion around contractual arrangements for road matters and waste, and they will be conducted in a confidential manner. Thank you.
Move an
Thank you, Mr.
adjournment for
Benny.
3 minutes.